So first of all, thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
yes, I have been a follower of Nourishing Traditions for a while. As you may recall, I was the very short time the Boulder chapter leader.
Oh,
So
good. Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. So I found you in 2015 on the Fertility Friday podcast.
Okay.
And so it's been, yeah, 9 years almost, and incorporating little by little. And so now in this stage of life, I have a 2-year-old and a 9-month-old. I'm kind of branching
What
out. Yeah,
wise traditions babies.
they are Wise Traditions babies. There was Wise Traditions pregnancies. There was preconception,
Great.
all that stuff. It was great.
Wonderful.
So, so thank you for that. Um, I wanted to just honor that space, and I wanted to, because I have younger kids, I wanted to start out with the basics, which was what are the best foods for children with oral health in mind. So building healthy teeth, oral
Yes.
structure, all that jazz.
Okay. So are we
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
okay,
yeah.
okay. Well, the diet for having healthy children, including having children with broad faces and naturally straight teeth, starts before pregnancy, as you know. The traditional cultures had 6 months of feeding very nutrient-dense sacred foods before conception. So a lot of moms are doing this these days. It's moms and dads.
Yeah.
And these are the most nutritious foods you can find. They include liver, butter, egg yolks, and products from grass-fed animals, raw milk and cheese, cod liver oil. And this builds up your stores in your liver, especially your vitamin A stores, so that when conception occurs, you have plenty of vitamin A to ensure that the baby grows in the most optimal way possible. And vitamin A is the concert master of fetal development. It gives the signals to the stem cells to become heart cells, nerve cells, whatever.
Mm.
Then after birth, of course, and after conception, then this diet continues during pregnancy, during breastfeeding, and we just assume that anyone doing this diet will be breastfeeding,
Right.
and then during the period of growth. And we're particularly concerned about weaning foods for babies because if you go to the grocery store, all you're going to get is fruit pouches or fruit in plastic or fruit in aluminum. And this is like giving your children candy. It's just sugar. So the two weaning foods that we recommend are pureed liver. The easiest is poultry liver, chicken liver, and egg yolks every day. And don't skimp on the salt. Babies need salt. Pregnant moms need salt. Salt is very important for neurological development. So those are the basics. That's how you start out.
Okay, lovely. And then, so what would you say to a mother who perhaps didn't necessarily follow the Wise Traditions diet, but she's taken her 3, 4-year-old to the dentist and he's got 4 cavities, and the doctor's like, okay, well, when you're 12, we'll pull out those teeth, we'll get orthodontics in.
You know, it's never too late to start. And the first thing I do is get the child on some raw whole milk, plenty of butter, and cod liver oil. And one way or another, try to get them to eat some liver,
Right.
pureed liver or whatever. And I'll tell you an interesting story. One of my grandsons was born with very tiny teeth, and I thought, this is really odd. Anyway, the diet's kind of out of my control. I'm the
Right.
grandmother. But we found raw milk and we've gotten him on a better diet. And you know, those teeth are just perfect now. So I do think the body, for a certain amount of time, can compensate for things that may have happened in the womb. We had a family who adopted a little girl who was a drug baby, just in terrible shape and thin face. And they got her on the raw milk and cod liver oil and decent diet, lots of egg yolks. And you know what? Her face filled out and she became the picture of health.
Mhm.
So I think the window of opportunity is a little bit larger than we think it is.
Okay. I've noticed in myself before and after 2015, and I feel I may be totally wrong, but I can feel the difference in my teeth visually when I've got from the raw milk forward.
Yeah,
So
interesting,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, if they're almost looking pearly on where like the
Very
new teeth
good.
form. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So the next thing is, um, yeah, I would love the foundation's perspective on fluoride. I know it's on trial now. I've spoken to a few holistic dentists, and for them, it's pretty clear that not to use fluoride. But I'm curious your perspective on that.
Well, we're against fluoride. I mean, the whole premise of fluoride is based on very fraudulent research. And the goal was to give manufacturers a way to get rid of this really toxic substance
Mhm.
without having to remediate it, without expensive remediation. They just sell it and put it in the water. I mean, it's diabolical. And there was congressional testimony from somebody who'd been in the armed forces who learned during the Second World War that the Russians gave fluoridated water to their circus animals to make them docile. And that's what fluoride does many things. It's a goitrogen, so it depresses thyroid function, it depresses IQ, and it makes the children less likely to act out, maybe,
Yeah.
and certainly the grown-ups less likely to act out, shall we say. So we're against fluoride, and Dr. Price was very much against it. He said, I've studied these people all over the world, and they weren't using fluoride. They had perfect teeth. So he didn't think it had anything to do with preventing cavities for sure.
I know the latest recommendation, even from holistic dentists, are to use xylitol. And I know, yeah, I find it curious because, and I know obviously from what I read, that it's genetically modified. So that's problematic to put in your mouth, right? Immediately close to your.
Well, it's an industrial product. And
Okay.
anytime you've got something that's made in a factory, you're going to have impurities in it, and who knows what they may be. And again, that's not the way to prevent cavities. The way to prevent cavities is a really nutrient dense diet, and that means avoiding sugar as much as you can. But even if, I mean, you can't avoid it completely in growing children, but even if they do get some sugar, this diet will protect them very well.
How does I know from the podcast with Hilda that there have been guests on that address EMFs. And I'm just curious because in my recent studying, I'm like, wow, this is a bigger problem. They've just had the 6G conference. They want to put 5G in the ocean.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I firsthand testimony, I know that eating raw liver makes me feel great. I feel like we say, resilience. I This postpartum has been incredible because I've started eating raw liver, up to an ounce a day, and I just feel great. But I can't help but notice, hey, there's these plans for 5G in the ocean, 6G to come, 7, 8G, and so how can we keep up? How can we navigate that? Um,
You
First,
know, when the Industrial Revolution occurred starting in the 1600s, but really got going in 17 and 1800s, and people moved to the cities, and they were working in terrible conditions. There was no sewage, there was no trash collection. We didn't have cars, we had horses, so the cities were stinking piles of manure everywhere. And the death rate was one child in two up to the age of 5. In the end, we're all glad the Industrial Revolution happened. I mean, it's made life so much easier, especially for women. Aren't you glad you have a washing machine? I mean, think of how much time you'd have to spend washing clothes before the Industrial Revolution. So these great changes always come with dangers, and we have to clean up. So it took us about 300 years to clean up from the Industrial Revolution, get the sewers in and clean up the water, and the car came along, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So, and we had to clean up the gasoline. We had pollution, and then we figured out how to make the gasoline clean, and the smog has disappeared. So I am a great believer in human progress. I don't want to interfere with the what we might call the electronic revolution. I love the computer. I like having a cell phone. But we need to, just like we cleaned up after the Industrial Revolution, we're going to have to clean up because we've made a big mess for ourselves. We've rushed headlong into this, and now we have to clean up.
Mm.
And I hope it doesn't take 300 years.
I don't know either.
I hope we can do it in 20 or 30 years. But meanwhile, there's things that you can do, just like people did in their houses, to make them fairly safe if they could. And one is not to have Wi-Fi in your house. And even if you don't have FiOS, you can turn the Wi-Fi off in your house and have places to plug in your computer. It's not hard and it doesn't cost a lot. So that is number one. Get the Wi-Fi out of your house, especially in your sleeping areas. Get a meter so you know what's going on in your house. And then you want to be very careful how you use your cell phone. You know, one of the theories about why we have so much thyroid cancer today is because the emitter from the cell phone is right at your thyroid level. So you always hold your cell phone in front of you. Okay. So those are the kinds of things we can do, and we can teach our children to do. Just like we teach our children to wash their hands, or to be clean and so forth. We have to teach our children to respect this technology and use it properly.
Mm.
I really doubt they're going to get to 6G or 7G because I think the effects are going to be so obvious that they'll have to step back from that.
I mean, I think 5G is fairly obvious already.
Yeah, I mean, I had COVID when it first came out, when the 5G first came out. I got it after being in an airport,
Hmm.
several airports.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was very, very sick. I really had never been so sick. But I recovered, and now I can go into airports without any problem. So I think what COVID really is the body's efforts to adjust to this. And most people do adjust, but there are some who don't. And I really feel sorry for these people because you can't escape it. But I really am wondering whether they'll go to 6G. That's extremely high frequency, and I don't think the body can adjust to that,
No,
frankly.
yeah. And then the 5G in the ocean is like, who comes up with these ideas? It's not very.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. It's still, most of the stuff in the ocean comes by cable, but yeah, and the satellites are very concerning
Mhm.
because that's up to 50 gigahertz. That's really high frequency.
Yeah, I have friends who still use the microwave, and I'm just like, what are you doing? This is
Mhm.
2024, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
2024.
The Russians don't allow them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, and they also, the Russians, I think, have a kind of a different system for the internet, not for the internet, but for the phones and everything. They certainly don't allow towers near schools. So we just have a lot to learn, a lot to clean up. I would love to see FiOS everywhere. That was the original plan
Mhm.
for the telecommunications industry. They've been deducting $5 off of your phone bill for 25 to 30 years in order to have a fund to put in FiOS, everything in wires. But they didn't do it. They took that money and used it for 5G.
What would you say to the layperson that doesn't quite look into research or scientific papers and has to wade in the sea of propaganda? I find, like I said in the beginning, I find reading your books and listening to the podcast has always been a source of calm. And then obviously paired with the liver and the foods that I eat, I feel, I find myself quite grounded in times of chaos.
Yes.
I know firsthand that that is part of it. So, yeah.
Well, come to us. I mean, I can say without hesitation that what the Weston A. Price Foundation offers is the truth about a healthy diet. And when you're on a healthy diet, as you have found, even if there's all these environmental assaults going on, you are grounded, you feel optimistic, and goodness knows we all have a lot of worries and stress in our life. but we should still feel optimistic. It shouldn't get us down. And
Mhm.
I'm like you. I don't know if I could eat raw liver. Maybe I could swallow it, but
You should try it. It really is distinct.
well, people make little pea-sized pieces out of it and freeze it, and then they swallow it. Is that what you do?
That's what I do. I do it.
Yeah.
And I do
Okay.
it with an
Okay.
adrenal cocktail. So it's half coconut water, half orange juice, and a big pinch of salt.
Mhm.
And it's incredible.
And you blend the liver into that
Nope, I just drink it whole.
with the
So
piece of
I
liver.
let it thaw. I let it, so it's from frozen. I let it thaw partially, maybe
Mhm.
40%, so it's easier to cut that way.
Mhm.
And then every day for my husband and for myself, I'll pull out visually what looks like an ounce worth and then swallow that with the
Yes.
coconut juice or the coconut water and the orange juice.
Orange juice, fresh orange juice, of course.
Fresh orange juice, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then when my daughter's around, so she's two, like she'll be like, okay, I'll have one. I don't force it on her, but I definitely, yeah.
Okay. But yes, I prefer things like pâté de foie gras.
Mhm.
I like my pâté, and I also try to eat fish eggs once a week.
Hmm. Hmm.
So Whole Foods sells these tiny 2-ounce jars of white caviar for $12. So that's my splurge for the week. So
Yes, I give those to my son.
and when I eat those things, it's the change in the way you feel is noticeable. Now there's other choices. My husband, I can't get him to eat liver, fish eggs, no, but he loves oysters.
Okay.
And I fix oysters for him once a week too. So there's many ways to skin a cat.
Yes. I noticed too, so here I live in Boulder, obviously, and the Whole Foods used to do buck a shuck on Fridays, and I was like, okay, great, especially pregnant. I was like, I would go over
What's
there,
this? They did what?
buck a shuck.
What's
So a
that?
dollar oyster, an oyster.
Oh, I see. I
But they
see.
switched everything to not wild caught, what's the other one? Farmed. They switched it all to farm raised oysters, and I was like, okay, well, yeah.
Serious. I didn't know there was such a thing.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, that's too bad.
Um, so the next question I have would be how to um I know veganism is controversial,
Not
but
to
I
me.
think,
It's not
yeah,
controversial
well,
to me.
right. I feel that I understand the vegan that is trying to save the earth and trying to save a life. The way I view it is we're at the top of the food chain, and that's for a reason. We figured out a few things, or we evolved with a few things. Um, why is it problematic? Why is it problematic for a vegan mother? And
Well, the
yeah.
vegan mother is not well nourished, and the babies I know born to vegan mothers either died shortly after birth or they were extremely unhealthy. It's not fair to your child to be a vegan mother or even a vegetarian mother. It's just not fair. No traditional culture ate that way when they were pregnant or prepared for pregnancy that way. All these sacred foods were animal foods, nutrient dense animal foods. Why do we see veganism being promoted in this way? Well, for one thing, there's a lot more profit on plant foods than animal foods. So it's accountants telling us how to eat.
Mm.
This is just like why do they promote low fat milk? And especially for children. I mean, this is a crime against humanity to give a child low fat milk. And I can tell you the reason. The reason is they make so much more on the butter fat if they take it out and put it into ice cream than they
Mm.
do if they give children whole milk or even butter. They make 5 times more, at least, on the butter fat in ice cream than they do in butter. And so
Wow.
they don't want you to eat butter and whole milk. They want you to be starving for fat at the end of the day and to eat ice cream with all the sugar in it because they make so much more money on the butter fat that way. So I I'm not criticizing people who are vegans, but I sure am criticizing people who are promoting veganism. They know better. They know better.
I find it's I think it comes from a good place ultimately, from individuals, not from the large conglomerate.
Mhm, mhm.
But what I want to always transmit is that you are disrupting your endocrine system
Oh
from the
yeah.
lack of brain food. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not a scientist, obviously, so that's what I call it. I call it brain food. You're disrupting your whole hormonal system, your ability to develop properly. Let's rethink this.
Yeah. Yeah. And even your ability to be attracted by the opposite sex. That's dependent on these nutrient dense foods as well.
Oof.
Yeah, I had a dear friend who was a vegetarian, grew up as a vegetarian, and she was living with a woman. She got on our diet and she suddenly became attracted to men. And she got married and had a baby with a man. So,
I feel like only life matters.
yeah. Yeah.
It'll do what it.
When we think of what matters most of all in this whole world is healthy children. And that's our responsibility. Each parent has a responsibility to figure out, you know, find out our information and figure out the best diet for their growing child.
I gave my written testimony for Amos Miller yesterday.
Oh,
And I
good.
couldn't believe it. I was like, people are allowed, and I wrote it in there, but people are allowed to smoke cigarettes, drink alcohol, and do a number of things without any sort of, condemnation, or it's
Yeah.
socially acceptable. I don't understand why this is still a thing. Like, let the people who want to consume the raw milk consume the raw milk. And that's another thing I've
Thing
noticed.
is, there's not a lot of money in raw milk for any corporation. There's money in alcohol, lots of money. There's money in cigarettes. There's money in marijuana. All of these things have heavy taxes, and as long as the producers are paying their taxes, paying their fees, um, it's encouraged, right?
Yeah.
But the only money in raw milk is for the farmer and his family. And that's what they don't want. We talk about
Mm.
they don't want small, healthy, independent farms.
It's funny because it's so again, my 2-year-old and my 9-month-old, and I'm like, I can't believe this. I've gone full circle. I just want to be on a farm with with cows and chickens
Well,
running around.
don't go too quickly. It's a lot of work and it's very hard to make a living at it. So just get your raw milk from your cow share in Colorado or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, I've had mine for going on 10 years. So I love
Okay.
Daphne. I love it's in glass jars. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Um, so yeah, I feel like how would you incorporate consistency and fluidity when incorporating this diet into an older family member who didn't grow up on these foods? Or so how I've kind of navigated it with my friends, I've said, listen, don't try to give your kids sardines when they're super tired or
Yeah.
when they've had sugar all day, because they're just going to fight it. They're just so
Yeah.
make sure that they're extra hungry, make sure that they're, alert and wanting, set yourself up for success is what I call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, how would you teach?
Well, I think first of all, it's to consistently prepare meals of foods that they like, that they'll eat. It could be meatloaf. It could be, I make chicken nuggets for my grandchildren. I just cook them in lard. It could be, soups. It could be stews. Make them low sugar desserts, natural ice cream. I mean, they shouldn't feel deprived by the foods that you're creating for them. And then there's a few little tricks that I always did. For example, I always fed my kids a big meal before a birthday party.
Oh, smart, smart.
Okay. So when they got to the birthday party, they were full and they didn't eat much of the junk that was being served.
Very smart.
And there were certain things they knew that were just completely forbidden. Mom would have a conniption fit, and one was sodas.
Yeah.
They were not allowed in the house. Their friends were not allowed to bring them in the house. Um,
I
so
have a sister who has a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 13-year-old, and I can't tell you how many times she's found in their laundry like junk food and
yeah,
oh my gosh. So yeah. Firm boundaries.
yeah, firm boundaries. Yeah, but pick your battles. You can't fight them on everything.
Mhm.
You can't fight them on everything. So it's not like you're going to say no. You can't go to this birthday party. You can't do that. but you can definitely ensure that they're not going to eat a lot of junk at the birthday party.
So what are you excited for slash looking forward to for this year? What excites you? What keeps you up at night in the most optimistic of ways? Let's share.
Oh, you know, I work a 26-hour day. I don't know, maybe I'd like to take a little vacation or something this
Yeah,
year.
where would you go? The beach?
Yeah. No, I just came back from visiting my grandsons, and that was a wonderful vacation. So I'd like to see my grandchildren more often.
Okay. All right. Um, that I think that's it for me.
Okay, very good. Well, if you post this, let me know the link.
Okay.
Okay,
I know I have to do an outro, but I do that separately with my dad. My dad
okay,
is my editor.
okay. All right.
Yes, lovely. Thank you. Oh, I haven't seen was conference announced already this year?
No.
Okay, okay,
We're just about to. We
okay,
think we know where we're going to be. We'll know in about 10 days.
okay.
But we prematurely announced Sioux City, and that fell through. So
Oh,
we're going to be more careful this time.
okay, okay.
It's a nice place. It's warm.
Ooh.
There's a hint. Yeah.
Is it Florida? Because I'm from Florida.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I
All right,
can't tell you anymore.
that's fine. Fair, fair, fair. Do you have the theme for this year chosen?
Well, we haven't done a theme for the last few years.
Okay, okay,
I'm hoping to have a track on heart disease. We haven't
okay,
done that in a while. So
okay.
we'll see.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ethel.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.